We have our guest in the studio. She is Seyi Ramon. Seyi Ramon is the founder and team lead of Kayil Initiative, a non-profit organization targeted mainly at helping young girls and women rise from the unique challenges they are constantly faced with to maximizing their potentials. All right, so our involvements with several high-impact social works and her passion for humanity propelled her to establish Kayil. Good morning, Seyi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thank you very much
Feels
for joining
great to be here.
Yes, it's so great to have you here this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we jump into pedophilia, let's talk sexual grooming a little bit. What has been your experiences when it has to do with sexual grooming, either personal or with people that you've had conversations with cases that you have studied and whatnot? What are the experiences that you've had?
Okay, for me, there's an experience I always like to share, you know, when it comes to sexual grooming and, you know, the general information around sexual education. One thing that really has stood out for me all my life would be while I was in secondary school, and then we would always have this talk. So I know our teachers in school, I think it was weekly, right? And then they would gather all of us into a class, into the hall, and then, you know, they're talking to us about sex. And so for me, that was very foundational, you know, in my life, in growing up, even concerning things that I'm doing now.
Okay.
You get, I mean, that was where I sort of drew that inspiration from, because getting the right education at that time really literally saved me a lot. You know, like it saved me a whole lot. You know, before we came on set, I was talking about, you know, how that this information is very, very, very important and vital. So we need to understand that while children are growing up, parents, you have to be involved. Parents, teachers, adults, the community, you have to be involved with the grooming of children sexually, I mean, and otherwise, right? We invest so much into education, you know, teaching them the subject and everything, and then sexuality is a major part. I mean, like, sexuality is a thing. It's not just something to overlook, because this is something that affects children even when they grow up and then get into relationships or are exposed to the world.
So I know Kayil is, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Kayil focuses on the girl child. It focuses on women empowerment. But for the sake of this interview, we're going to focus on the girl child aspect of what Kayil does. In your work, you know, have you come across young girls, you know, who have been sexually molested or sexually abused, and how do you deal with that? Okay,
so first things first, is always an emotional experience, because it just takes you back, you know, down memory lane, of friends, relatives that, you know, probably had this experience. So I'll share a story. So we went to, there was an outreach we had, and then so we went to the school, and there was a young girl that came to us, right? Because we teach a lot about sex, teenage pregnancy, menstrual health, personal hygiene, and any other topic, you know, typically that just aids the girl child, aids her confidence, and just helping her to be informed so that she can make better decisions for herself. And then so she came up to us and then she was like, I didn't want to share this, but I mean, she was molested or raped by 3 men, you know, in secondary school. And then she was literally looking at me, telling me the story. And then she was also, you know, very teary. And, you know, for me, that's one example. That's in a totally different location. Now, while I was in Delta State and we had another outreach, there was a young girl that came to us, and then she opened up to us, and then she confided in us. And then she goes, there's a man that she's currently dating, and she's supposed to get married to, in quotes. And then the reason why she's in a relationship with him is because she stays with her stepmom, but the stepmom doesn't really provide for her needs and everything, right? So even to make her hair, the mom doesn't even know how she gets her hair made for school, you know, school shoes and everything. So this man, you know, gives her money to do the things that she would need to do. And then she was maybe in SS2, SS1. And this man was way older.
So this is probably like a 14-year-old, 13-year-old.
Give or take.
Yeah, give or take around that. And then, you know, so I asked her, why you still with him? Why are you know, going out with him? And she says, you know, it's because he provides for her. Like he does those things, you know, that he just basically provides for her.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And then even in that area where we had the outreach, you see a lot of girls dating older men, married men, you know, because they are providing for them. And yeah, there was another area where we had another outreach again, and then there was this young lady that came to us, and then she was telling us about how her stepfather, and I was just interested in her, was trying to...
A stepfather?
Yes.
Wow.
You know, was trying to just molest her as well.
Wow.
So we, funny enough, when we asked her for her address and said, okay, so now we've reached out to you, I mean, a lot of you, and then you came up to talk to us. So, where do you stay? You know, give us your address. Don't worry, maybe it'll work things out, will come over. And then, you know, she was so scared. We tried reaching her, but, I mean, she just didn't open up. You know, so sometimes in terms of reaching out to these young children, they need to be willing, you know, to open up, right? You can't, because this matters, they're very sensitive.
Yeah.
That's the stepfather. Her mother is probably there. You know, she doesn't want you to destroy her marriage.
Marriage, yeah.
You know, that mindset, right? Not every parent is open to these things. And, you know, so we tried severally. There was even a time I went back to the area, called, and she just, you know, absconded. So what we do to help these young girls is, first of all, you know, you have to be open. You have to be warm. You have to show them that you understand and you care. That's usually like, you can't just, you know, barge in and say, okay, because you've gone through this experience. Most times, these things are emotional. They are, I mean, psychological, right? You just can't act on these issues just as it comes to your mind. So what we do is we work with trained counselors, you know, to help them. It's the same thing with when a child even gets involved with drug abuse. Because as a parent, you ask yourself first, okay, where do I start from?
Okay.
You know, someone that, you know, is involved with a setting is involved with a certain habit, and you know that it's just strange, because sometimes, you know, if you're not properly trained on how to handle these things, I think that's where sexual education is important, because you see parents sometimes, you know, they come to you as their mom, and they say, so you see children, they come to you and they say, Mom, this is what happened, and then the mom doesn't really know what to do about it. So we work with trained counselors, we reach out to these children, and we always take them on a journey, right? So first is, you know, reaching out to them, tell them to open up, and then go into therapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a lot of so it's just you go out to reach out to girls, and then you see these experiences, you hear these stories, and it's just.
I must commend you a lot to be able to emotionally deal with it.
Thank you for all that you do, and all you do for these women and girls. It's a lot. And let's move this conversation to pedophilia.
Yeah.
We have a lot of young children being harassed by men or women that are very old, way older than them. I'm talking about children from 1 year to 17 years old. And it's alarming to see that these kinds of things are happening still in 2021 in this age and time. But then, to you, what does pedophilia mean?
Okay, pedophilia is first a psychiatric disorder. So, you know, it's a mental disorder, right, where adults or older children experience primary or exclusive sexual attraction to prepubescents, that's children that are younger than, you know, the age of 13, right? So this stems from their sexual orientation, you know, their romantic or sexual attractions to younger children. And sometimes it's environmental, sometimes it's something that stems from puberty. So while reading, while researching, say, okay, so what's the cause of pedophilia? Why do we have pedophiles? And then you see that for some individuals, right? I mean, for some individuals, it's based on association, it's associative. But then for some, it's something that is discovered. So it's something that kicks off during puberty. And then, everybody's growing and, and then you just begin to discover that, okay, this is a thing, right? This is how I feel. This is, and then so for pedophiles, right, these are people that, have this sustained sexual orientation towards children. It's a disorder. There are other disorders. You have necrophilia and the rest, right? That's attraction to cops and sexual attraction to cops and all that. And then so for this particular one, it involves children. And yeah, so that's really what pedophilia is.
So after, what kind of effects can, pedophilia have on a child growing up? Because, we took some case studies, and it seems to me that, there are people who have been through pedophilia, that have been molested as children, but they didn't really understand that they had been molested. Only when they spoke to other people with similar experiences is when they realized that they've been abused as a child. So what kind of effects can, pedophilia have on the development of a child?
Okay, before we go to the effect of pedophilia on the development of a child. Okay. So pedophiles are recognized by their desires, while child molesters are recognized by their acts. So you have pedophiles that don't act on those desires.
Interesting.
Right, so they know that is wrong. They have that guilt and shame about it. So some of them try, not to act on those desires.
Interesting.
And then so they get drugs, they get therapy, they seek advice just to, be able to control themselves. And the thing about pedophiles is some of them are attracted to, both just maybe girls, some of them girls and boys. And then so and then you have some women that are pedophiles as well, but it's you find that more among men, right, according to research. And also some of them don't complete that cycle of carrying out the act.
So a pedophile doesn't have to be a child molester.
Yes. They recognize, because since it's proven that it's a mental disorder, right? So some of them, with the help of therapy, counseling, drugs, to suppress that desire. They don't molest children, while some act on it. Right? Okay. Some of them act on, that desire. And then that's where, some grooming can be positive. Sexual grooming can be positive. Sexual grooming can be negative.
Positive? How can sexual grooming
be it can. Positive? Sexual grooming, positive, sexual grooming, negative. So I would come from the negative, aspect, right? And then so you have, while you're researching, you have so I came across child pornography, right? And how that these men, right, there's an industry, a very, very booming industry for child pornography where, pedophiles and child molesters, before they actually carry out this, act, they watch these things, they go through these things. So they're very well aware, of the tactics, right, on leading these children on, right? And then so for the effect of pedophilia on children. So the thing is, for those pedophiles that go on to actually molest children and have sex with children and all of that, like it has a lot. The same thing with abuse, like same effect, like eating disorders, anxiety, loss of confidence, low self-esteem, poor, development. So that those are like a few of the effects that this has on children. And then, it just makes them lose that sense of security, right, around around life and growing up. Yeah.
Okay.